Phones off, please.
I know it's crazy, but it's
You're watching Channel Z, the world's leading zombie apocalypse channel, broadcasting live from Studio Z.
makes me act the way I do.
Welcome to Late Night Brains, all you night owls and nyctophiles. I'm your host, Athena Ectipus, psychology professor and purveyor of delicious brains.
And I'm your co-host, Dave Lundberg-Kenrick, brain enthusiast and nihilist.
Nihilist.
Member of the Cult of Chaos, yes.
Well, also, we love brains on this show, right?
We do.
The show is all about brains. I know you've been talking a lot about your cult, or what was the cult formerly known as your cult, and now known as the cult of nihilism.
Well, it's still the Cult of Chaos, but yes, we've been referring to ourselves as nihilists. And so, but lately, it sort of feels like maybe it's time for a change. You know, maybe
another change. I mean, wasn't there just a huge change yesterday?
Yeah, but that was yesterday. This is a cult of chaos, right? We can't stagnate.
Okay, well, so take us up to the present day. What's happened so far in the cult?
Okay, I started the cult,
Yeah.
right, and it was going okay. I doubled our membership from me and Neil, and then it sort of seemed like we were hitting a dead end. And I had a lot of like rituals, routines, and things, and I decided, you know what? It's time for me to move on. I've taken the cult this far. So I tried to pick who should take over the cult. And I went with Neil. And he's done a great job. We now have more members than we can count. We haven't really been counting because that sort of goes against chaos, but we don't know how many we have, but it's a lot. So it's at least more than like 3 or 4. Yeah, it's actually been great. He's had a great run, you know. But does he need to do this forever or no? And so, I don't know. I think maybe we should bring him on and see what he thinks.
We should have like an update.
Yeah,
with
I think
Neil
so.
About the cult
Yeah,
situation.
I mean, look, he runs the cult.
Yeah,
so
I mean, I guess it is breaking news.
it is. So yeah.
Neil Smith, maybe would you come and join us? Hey,
Hello.
Neil.
Hello.
Chaos.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, far be it from me to sort of, spring a surprise for the Cult of Chaos, but I'd like to invite Pam and Winfrey.
Hey, Pam.
Pam is also a Cult of Chaos member.
Yeah.
So
I am.
chaos. So,
Actually, have a seat.
Thanks.
Pam Hamarchy, Winfrey.
Pamarchy.
Pam-
Yeah,
Hamarchy.
you know, like anarchy. Only,
so wait, what is Pamarchy?
Well, I mean, I'm glad you've asked. So, I mean, as you know, the Cult of Chaos, which, you know, it's had a little rebrand. We're very much into chaos and caring, CAC. So chaos and caring, nihilism, obviously a very big part of that, and I've got to credit you for that wonderful turn of phrase. The Cult of Chaos and caring, you know, we're dynamic, we're fluid, and in the spirit of dynamism and fluidity, I've got quite a big announcement. Is that we're looking to Pam now for to take charge, take the cult. Yeah, I know. I know. To take this forward, move us in an exciting new direction. I know. It's great.
So this is the era of
Pam has something
Pamarchy?
to
Oh,
say.
okay.
Yeah, Pam. I know I've sprung this on you, but have you got any?
Yeah,
have you got any?
thank you so much. I've always wanted to be a cult leader. This is thrilling for me ever since I was like 5. I mean, this is really great. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
so much.
it's been great for Dave. It's been great for me.
It's so
gonna
great.
It's gonna look terrific on my CV.
You guys aren't gonna like throw me up a balcony or anything, are you?
You're the leader. You get
I
to
know,
decide who
that's
gets
what I'm
thrown.
worried
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
That's what they
So-
do to leaders around.
Yeah.
Oh, it's throw them off balconies.
Yeah.
So that's just Shane.
That's
He threw
great.
himself.
Thank
So
you so much.
It's okay.
It's really cool.
So any big plans spring to mind?
Well, let's see. I think I've been the leader for 20 seconds.
Mm.
So yeah, I do have a thought.
Mhm.
And I want to tell you what happened to me. Did you see that right here?
Yeah.
So, you know, like,
Oh, Pam, that doesn't
Yeah.
I
look
know.
too good.
I know.
It's a
So-
nasty rash, isn't it?
yeah, it's kind of weird. So I was walking down there, and it was a chaotic moment. I was doing what you're never supposed to do, which is walk and look at your phone at the same time. And I was looking up Rick rolling, right? And I was looking that up, and
Wait, were you Rick rolling or were you getting Rick rolled?
I wasn't sure because I hadn't gotten to I don't even know what it is, yet. But I know it was people were talking.
You are never going to give you up, never going to let you down. I mean,
Oh,
that's
Yeah.
certainly something we can get behind.
Yeah.
And it's a trick, right? Because you get sent somewhere, and then you hear
It's chaotic.
It is
so
so chaotic.
yeah.
So anyway, so I was walking down the street, and HD, who we all know, I saw her, and I was like, HD, this is really great. And I thought we were going to hug, but instead she bit me. Right.
Oh.
So the thing is that I have a feeling there's some kind of transformations going on here.
No, it looks fine.
So let's see it now. It's probably like 30 seconds. So I
Eight.
have a proclamation.
Whoa.
Yeah, I know.
Well, that's your prerogative.
Yeah, I know. That's the great thing about being a leader. So I think that we should combine the cult of chaos with the cult of care, and I'll tell you why. I've experienced the chaos part, and now I really need some care. See,
Oh.
it doesn't even hurt when I go like this.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
Well, I mean,
What do
great.
you think?
Sounds great. I mean, it's a direction I wasn't expecting.
Yeah,
Feels
yeah.
radical, but you know, count me in.
This is chaotic.
Yeah.
I think ultimately, yes. And here's the beauty of it, though, is I think we all actually need to embrace chaos, and we need to embrace care. So it's kind of the best of both worlds. And as long as you guys don't, throw me off a balcony, I think I'm good.
Yeah. Wow.
So
There you go. I mean, you can't say fairer than that for exciting breaking news.
how would we do that? Like, is this? I mean, because they've got their whole. I don't even know what they have.
Well, we're
right?
gonna need
They've
a
got
branding
kombucha.
It's
And
the cult of C. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
You don't even have to change. You know, if you were going to do the Guerrilla Girls, which is an art movement, you'd have to do the cult of G, but you don't even have to change the branding.
Yeah.
It's kind of perfect.
oh, the cult of C.
Yeah, the
Interesting.
cult of C.
So, what do you think? Should we propose it to them?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and you
that-
can go, see, this is a good idea.
Yeah.
See?
It's a plan. It's a plan with no drawbacks, and you heard it here first.
Well, it's been a delight having you both here for this breaking news update.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're I think we're gonna invite you to maybe stay with us here for a minute while we hear from Baba Brinkman. Baba
Ooh, the
Brinkman.
cult of B.
Did you join us here? Baba! Hey, oh yeah.
Hey,
How's it going?
very good.
All right.
Happy to be here.
Yeah.
Neil, hello, Pam.
Hello?
So I have,
You got something for us?
I do. I have a rap that I'd like to share.
Amazing.
Yeah. So this is a piece from the Rap Guide to Medicine, and it is about host manipulation from human parasites that change our behaviors sometimes and change our physiology in ways that benefit themselves at our expense, which is very morbid and disturbing, but can help us develop paradigms for research that hopefully will help us treat and cure and maybe just domesticate and mitigate some of these diseases. So
And maybe zombie situations more generally.
that's it, exactly. Maybe we could domesticate the zombies and then coexist with them because we've made them less virulent and less dangerous for us. So there's a whole science of this. It was a lot of fun for me to read up in it. It's 2015. We worked together as well. I think you and I put together the cancer song, and that turned into the whole Rap Guide to Medicine. And this was one of my favorite tracks to do on it. So,
Awesome.
all right, here we go. This is Parasite Wars. It's not exactly a party song. Groove to it. Studio audience, feel free to sway a bit. Parasite wars, viruses, spores, protozoa, bacteria, microbes galore. They evolve faster, but we can flip the strategy backwards before they turn us into eyesores. Parasite wars are ancient. We've been entangled with them since before before we had a brain on the tip of our brainstem, trapped in an arms race when we're stuck in one place with the Red Queen, running to keep pace with the microbes. If you're thinking that quite gross disgust is beneficial for a parasite's host, every host parasite interaction is a mystery until you consider its evolutionary history. That's the Enigma code. Alan Turing gotta stay out of the water when a guinea worm is burrowing that burning acid just to get you to splash in the river so the bastard's eggs are blood broadcasted. Ask Jimmy Carter, it isn't hard to take hold of the situation by interrupting host manipulation. Don't scratch it. That feeling of itchiness is just to get you to attach eggs to your fingertips. What you think a sneeze is for? Clearing your nostrils? Nah, that's a virus taking over the launch codes. You can see the benefits of COVID, right? We are the launch codes. Yeah. In the parasite wars, fighting for lives, never high scores, escalate the arms race with the strike force. The harder we hit them, the more they fight back with resistance, trying to find the right course. Parasite wars, viruses, spores, protozoa, bacteria, microbes galore. They evolve faster, but we can flip the strategy backwards before they turn us into eyesores. Parasite wars, whoa, they're clever as hell. How did they get to know us better than we know ourselves? How does rabies virus know to go for the saliva glands and attack the brain and make a mammal crazy, fighting mad, foaming at the mouth, ready to bite and pass on a mouthful of crazy little baby rabies viruses? Ah, that's a clever little parasite. Plasmodia love the mosquitoes in the air and flight, but they're patient. They never attack a carrier, benign in mosquitoes, but in people they're malaria, leaving you weaker and weaker, weeks and weeks of fever till you're nothing but a sack of hot meat, a mosquito feeder. Ah, there's a method to the madness. Effects are selected when benefits are adapted to the pathogens. That's why some are deadly serious and others are mild. It's the evolution of virulence. Cholera can spread through vectors like the water systems. We can pass it on even from incapacitated victims. But STDs are different. They only eat worthy. If they leave you on your feet and flirting, parasite war, fighting for lives, never high scores, escalate the arms race with the strike force. The harder we hit them, the more they fight back with resistance, trying to find the right course. Parasite wars, viruses, spores, protozoa, bacteria, microbes galore. They evolve faster, but we can put the strategy backwards before they turn us into eyesores. Parasite wars, we got the pattern figured out. Some can only spread it, they keep you walking around. Others spread better if you're stuck in blood and agony, and they don't give a plasmid about you and your family. All we gotta do is interrupt the vectors, and though virulence is artificially selected, that's just one way to leave disease decimated. If we can't beat it, we could try to domesticate it. We've already domesticated a few. There's 100 trillion microbes inside of you. Commensals, they can make you crave food, hijack your vagus nerve and infect your mood. But microbiota isn't even as deep as it gets. Your DNA is chock full of endogenous retroviruses. Your ancestor got an STD. It got trapped in your genome next to the rest of your genes and adapted to help your placenta get implanted. So next time you catch a virus, maybe you should thank it. Watch out for the vectors, the double agents and defectors in the parasite war. Fighting for lives, never high scores. Escalate the arms race with the strike force. The harder we hit them, the more they fight back with resistance, trying to find the right course. Parasite wars, viruses, spores, protozoa, bacteria, microbes galore. They evolve faster, but we can flip the strategy backwards before they turn us into eyesores. Parasite wars, fighting for lives, never high scores. Escalate the arms race with the strike force. They evolve faster, but we can flip the strategy backwards before they turn us into eyesores. Parasite wars, viruses, spores, protozoa, bacteria, microbes galore. They evolve faster, but we can flip the strategy backwards before they turn us into eyesores. Parasite wars. Thank you.
Baba, thank you so much. That was awesome. Hey, can you stick around for a minute or two to chat with us?
I would absolutely love to. Yeah, that would be great.
Excellent. Neil, Pam, thank you so much for the update on the cults.
I
Really,
just want to
really
say that
appreciate
it
it.
was so nice of you guys to write a song about me because I think I might be parasitic and boring.
It's just a rash, bro. Just a rash.
Congratulations, by the way.
Bye, cult leader.
Oh,
So, Baba, I have to ask you about this whole process. You're making all of these songs that have to do with many different scientific concepts. What's the scope? Like, how many different kinds of approach, like concepts, approaches, topics do you deal with in the songs that you write?
I mean, I'm very promiscuous like that. I'll work with any scientist with an interesting topic that has a public interest dimension. So, I'm really trying to choose topics that I think if they were better understood by the general public or by the research community, it could help the kinds of human knowledge generation that improve well-being. So I do, evolutionary medicine songs, evolution in general songs, stuff about public policy, climate change. And usually I'm starting with a researcher I'm collaborating with, asking them for sources and suggestions about what I would need to do to brush up on the topic. And then drafts of the lyrics go back and forth. And I think I have like 65 music videos now
Wow.
on a whole range of science topics. So
My kids really like you can get with this and you can do, or you can get with that. With
The climate change one, yeah.
Yeah, that's the favorite.
yeah,
So,
there are some stark choices around climate change. And then I haven't talked about this on the show yet, but during the pandemic, I was like, what is this weird niche that I'm in and how did I get into it? And I really realized it was like by building relationships with researchers and academics and serving a need, which is the public outreach dimension. So I founded this agency and it's called Event Wrap. And I am now one of 12 artists that I represent, and I get them kind of cool commission gigs making music videos on science topics. So
Oh, that's
yes,
awesome.
I'm building a zombie army of science rappers.
Love it.
And now, did they have their own niches within the science community? Or
So
is it-
they're mostly just rappers that are like
Uh-huh.
highly skilled underground hip hop artists.
Sure.
And they have, some of them have bachelor's degrees, some of them have master's degrees, some of them have, are highly read up on certain topics. So they have on the website, there's like areas of interest.
That's
and
what I was wondering. Like, yeah, like
specialties,
if
but,
it was like,
but
if
it
you
isn't
want-
really a
yeah.
science rap agency. It's an anything rap agency.
Oh, it is.
So,
Okay.
if somebody wants like a happy birthday rap that tells your sister's life story, we will make
Oh,
that.
very
And-
cool,
And,
very cool.
any sort of
So-
information package can be summed up in a rap, but in practice, I'm biased because I love doing academic topics. And so we get a lot of those because that's what my track record is. But we're really putting ourselves out there as like important information that is somehow impeded from reaching the public and could make a difference. And somebody's got a budget and a campaign and a launch event or a program. And we're the kind of hired guns that'll come with the
Excellent.
information
So,
Now-
and the raps.
We had a question about sort of how long it takes to research and write a song. And I'm also curious about the educational work that you've been doing to sort of integrate that process of doing the, research and writing of the song with students being involved. So maybe you
Yeah.
could tell us about how long it takes in the context maybe of some of this broader project to involve students.
Yeah, sure. And so a lot of the projects we get is like, here's your little package of information, digest it and come back with the lyrics, and usually like 2 weeks or so to make the song and then another 2 weeks to make the video is realistic. But then this spring, there was this project at CU Boulder where they had groups of students researching topics in climate change and then working with an artist. And most of the artists who were with the program were stand-up comics. I was the token rapper of the group. And so they just assigned me the topic of retrofit insulation and, what we can do to buildings to prevent heat loss and wasted energy in service of climate change, which seemed like the most boring and unsexy topic in climate change imaginable. But these students were great. They brought all these interesting research studies and cities that were having really great ahead of the curve public policy of their buildings and setting targets on that. And we made a whole song called Insulate It. And it's like an insulation anthem that's getting produced as a music video now. And, it's a little tongue in cheek. It's like, you gotta insulate it, repetition, gotta insulate it, unsexy, gotta insulate it. But it's very catchy. Once you hear it, you can't stop singing God Insulated. And I hope it gets a lot of people on board with the message. And, it's just a great collaboration because the students were like, you could try this angle, you could try that angle. Like, what about this punchline? And it was a real dialogue. It was like having my own grad students while working on a science rap project. So I loved it.
It also sounds so fun, rather than for the students just writing a paper about insulation, they get to work with somebody who is creating something out of that they can participate in.
Yeah. I think it worked on multiple levels. And my favorite part about it is that, it wasn't just a class project. It is now going to be a public service announcement rap video that can be shared by anyone who cares. And, that's a service.
Yeah, no, that does seem great, because I think a big challenge with all these problems is we know about them, but knowing how to solve them. So this is a practical solution, and so I
Thank
can't
you.
wait to hear it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, coming
you,
soon,
Baba.
and I guess I'll be back near the end.
Yeah,
We'll do some
yeah.
more wrapping.
That would be awesome.
All right.
Great.
Have a great episode.
Yeah, see you in a little bit.
See you guys soon.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Don't forget that phone. Great. Well, we have a real treat this evening.
I'm curious
Yeah,
about this.
Are
treat.
you morbidly curious?
I'm a little
about
afraid,
what's
but
gonna
I'm
happen
also
for the rest
like,
of this evening?
yeah. So what is going to happen?
Well, we are going to have the chance to talk with Coltan Scrivner, who is an expert in morbid curiosity and recreational fear. So I think that Coltan might even be ready to join us now. Coltan, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Great to have you here with us.
Thanks for being here.
Coltan, so we have had the chance today to talk about morbid curiosity and recreational fear and Dia de los Muertos, many topics, and it's been really, really delightful. And I've just been thinking about, how can we use this idea of morbid curiosity to maybe understand ourselves a little better. So what is morbid curiosity in a nutshell?
I think the simplest definition of it would be interest in learning about threats or threat-related information, right? And that's super broad. That could be a real threat, like maybe you get pulled into the news or doom scrolling, threatening tweets that you're reading, tweets that are related to politics or climate change or all these scary things that could happen. But it could also be, and it often is, about fictions. So horror movies or true crime or podcasts that are sort of spooky, telling scary stories around a campfire. Those are all examples of morbid curiosity.
And how did the topic of morbid curiosity come to capture your curiosity?
Ooh, good question. Well, I mean, I've been a horror fan since I was a kid, but I certainly never thought I would be studying horror as a researcher. And I was in grad school and I started thinking about sort of the weird things that people do, which turns out there's a lot of those. But I started thinking about what are these sort of cognitive paradoxes that we have. And one of those that I came across was that people like to scare themselves for fun. And that seems like such a strange thing to do. And so I started looking into this. And obviously, I knew about this myself, being a horror fan, like to scare myself for fun. And when I started looking into it, there really wasn't a lot of research on the topic, surprisingly, I thought. And so I kind of just dug my feet in and started looking into it. And that's taken me. Sometimes I'll do surveys with people online. Sometimes I'll bring people into the lab and have them wear eye tracking glasses and see how they inspect morbid objects. Sometimes I'll go to haunted house attractions like during Halloween, and I'll study how people play in those extreme circumstances and strap them with heart rate monitors and film their reactions to different scares.
That sounds like a really fun,
It's very fun
research project. Yeah. Most of us who do work in the lab, it's like, okay, you bring people in and put them on a computer and then they do a task, or it's all online, but you're actually like they're in haunted houses having.
Yeah. I mean, what's great about it is that a lot of psych research is a little boring for the participants. Like, they think they zone out a little bit when they're taking surveys, because the surveys are kind of boring or they've seen them before. I get pretty good feedback on my experiments. I think people like them a lot. Like the people like wearing the eye tracking glasses and inspecting the morbid objects, or maybe taking a personality test that'll tell you how morbidly curious you are, or going through the haunted house or watching a scary movie. They're sort of engaging ways to do psychology studies.
Awesome. Well, I think maybe if you want, you could potentially gather some data on our other guests.
I would love that. Actually, I brought a few questions.
Oh,
all right.
That's some questions. Well, maybe we should bring our next guest, Ed Hagan, on, and you could give him a little quiz, and we could see how he scores on morbid curiosity.
You guys should also take it with us.
Oh yeah,
right,
we could all
all
take
right.
it together.
I'm
all right, I'm game.
curious.
I'm absolutely
So,
game
yeah,
for that.
that sounds
All
great.
right, well, let's welcome Ed Hagan. Ed Hagan. Ed, you could be with us? Yes, please. So now, Ed, you are an anthropologist and an evolutionary biologist, and you study many topics that perhaps fall in the domain of morbid curiosity. So, as Coltan and we were chatting, thought maybe you'd be a good test subject for Colton. What do you think of that?
I'm game.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't think I fit the profile of a morbidly curious person, but we'll find out, I guess.
Oh, should we get right into it? Should we just start right
Yeah, I
right
think
in?
sometimes you're surprised who's morbidly curious. It's not always obvious from their appearance. Yeah, let's jump into it. So I picked what I did. I have a 24-question morbid curiosity test that you can take. And I picked a few from there that I thought might be interesting to kind of discuss. So the first one, and this is to you, Ed, but also to Athena and Dave, if a head transplant was possible, I would want to watch the procedure. Is that sort of true for you, not true for you?
Yeah, so I think when I was a kid, I had some surgery on my arm, and I insisted on watching the surgery take place. And so I imagine in that case, I would be fascinated with a head transplant.
And why did you want to watch the procedure?
I wanted to, they had to take out some cysts in my arm, and I really wanted to watch them.
Did you not trust them, or did you just want to see?
I just wanted to see it. I just wanted to watch
Sounds
it.
pretty
It was
morbid.
just to get the information about it and see what would happen. And it was quite interesting to watch the surgeon cut open the arm and
Yeah.
peel it back, fish out the cysts, sew it all up.
That's pretty disgusting.
That is pretty
Yeah.
So fittingly, this fits within like the body violation aspects of morbid curiosity, right?
Right.
Learning about our bodies and the extent to which they can handle injuries and how those things heal.
I think I still have the scar here too.
So
Super
that's
relevant for the zombie apocalypse. too.
absolutely. I mean, that's one of the dimensions, right,
Yeah.
of the morbid curiosity scale is this bodily,
Bodily injuries or bodily violations, physical violations.
right? I mean,
What about
zombies
you?
certainly.
Would you watch the head transplant? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, zombies, right? They kind of embody this or disembody this idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me,
Yeah.
so I was just thinking about that, and I realized I think it would depend for me on like the mood I was in. I think I'm like in some moods I'd be like, yeah, I want to watch a head transplant. In other moods I'd be like, maybe not, or maybe not.
Maybe not at night before bed or something.
Yeah, or maybe it would depend, how much coffee I had or something like that. So
Okay.
yeah.
So I'm up for it. This sounds fantastic. A head transplant specifically because I've never heard of it. So there's something really interesting about
Yeah,
this
kind of a
sort
novelty aspect,
novelty.
right?
Yeah.
Yes. So I also want to encourage everyone at home.
Yeah,
Go
we
ahead,
want to
go
know,
ahead.
would you want to watch a head transplant?
Yeah, we could collect some data in the comments.
Oh, here, somebody says they've attempted head transplants on monkeys.
They're sort of
Wow.
Actually, you know what? I
that's
wouldn't want to
terrifying.
watch that. And now that I hear about it
on,
in
on
real
a
life,
monkey or on a human?
on a monkey, that bums me out.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
but on a
yeah.
human, maybe.
Yeah.
But
So-
I mean, now it brings up the question though of like, is it going to be successful or is it just going to be like a murder basically? Because if
Right.
it's just a murder, then I don't think I want to
Yeah,
watch
this
that.
wouldn't be
Yeah.
like someone cutting your head off in a murderous way. It'd be to do something.
At least with the hope that they'll be able to
That's the plot twist
not
at the end.
have death be the result.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Second question.
Yeah.
I think the supernatural is an interesting topic.
So for me, in modern day, if anybody starts bringing up the supernatural, I'm instantly bored and can't wait to move on to a more substantive topic. However, theoretically, if we look at small-scale societies, the kinds of societies in which we've evolved, their explanatory frameworks are shot through with what we would call supernatural ideas. So I've started thinking about that with my former grad student, Aaron Leitner. And what we've kind of come to realize is that there really is not a sharp distinction in small-scale societies between science and religion. It doesn't really make sense to talk about those as separate domains. And there's not really any clear distinction between natural and supernatural. Really, those distinctions are historically very, very recent. And so if we start to think about these kinds of issues as they may have played out over human evolution, we realize that the kinds of things that we call supernatural are ways of explaining phenomena that had a big impact on fitness, but were really impossible to explain in what we would call scientific terms. So think about infectious disease. There's no way prior to the discovery of the microscope, just a couple hundred years ago, that we could have ever explained infectious disease in a way that we consider scientific. And yet it had a huge impact on fitness. So we needed ways of explaining things like infectious disease that would allow folks in these small communities to respond in ways that would actually benefit them. And so the kinds of explanations that folks would come up with would today sound to us like supernatural, but actually they may have well been what we call, all models are false, but some are religious, some are supernatural, and they may have actually helped. So the supernatural ideas that were used to explain things like infectious disease may have actually helped people deal with those things. So even though I am personally really bored by modern day supernatural types of stories and explanations, I think if we think about it theoretically in terms of the kinds of issues that folks have been dealing with for eons, it actually becomes a really fascinating topic.
I'll
So
put that
that's
as a strongly agree then.
okay.
Yeah, I would agree. But actually, for reasons very similar to what you've articulated, but I would just add that I think like the microbiome and microbes in general explain, or I think that it's quite possible that they explain a lot of things that we think of as religious or spiritual that we haven't yet sort of figured out the mechanisms behind. And so I'm always intrigued when people are talking about supernatural things because it's an opportunity to wildly speculate about how the microbiome might be at the root of it.
Okay.
So,
Right.
I'm also I really like talking about the supernatural.
We
First,
were a cult leader, so
that's true. I was, yeah. So I was a few leaders back now, but yeah. Well, all these sorts of things, similar to what you were saying about sort of prior humans, but actually still, yeah, even with modern day humans, I'm curious as to what functions these things serve, and sometimes I even kind of believe them. So yeah.
all right.
Yeah, and I think kind of once I got this kind of new perspective on it from thinking it through, now like Athena and you, when I think about it, I think these people are being sort of natural scientists. They're trying to come up with an explanatory framework that works in the kinds of things that they're experiencing, the kinds of complex, mysterious things that have a big impact on their life. And this is actually probably more useful than we've given it credit
Yeah,
for.
like when somebody says something like, "Yeah, my grandma's ghost is still with me," I'm like, I feel like that captures something real in a way that it's really hard to capture with other words. So I like.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly what this tries to tap into, is that sort of uncertain danger, right, or this uncertain type of threat.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So far you're pretty morbidly curious.
Okay.
All right.
I
Third
deny
question.
it.
Or do we have comments, or do we want to go to the third?
Oh,
question?
yeah. Any comments from the audience? How do you feel about this question? Are you interested in the supernatural? So Pam's wondering if there's another tool like the microscope that will allow us to see things we can't see now.
Like the little
causation that we can't see now.
That would be cool.
I was
Yeah.
thinking like that little ectoplasm meter that they
Yeah.
have in
Mm,
Ghostbusters.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
And there is a new science of complex systems, which is we've always been dealing with complex systems. Think about the weather or natural disasters, fires, things that are very difficult to predict. And but we're beginning to develop the mathematical tools to model these things, and they do have some regularities and underlying principles and power laws and other kinds of things that, who knows, maybe natural selection has tapped into in terms of our ability to predict them at some level.
Well, speaking of complex systems, we know that not only, do microbes cause a lot of things from, good things to bad things, but also that they have the ability to engage in these really interesting collective behaviors that could have really unexpected effects. And that, they also do electrical signaling with each other. And, that's part of why we have the weather systems that we do. And there are a lot of things that we don't have good explanations for example, about how the weather actually works in terms of the physics of it. Could have microbial explanations. So, I think there are many, many domains that do have to do with sort of the natural world and explaining it, where there's, possible, biological scientific causation that we just don't understand the mechanisms yet well enough. We don't have the tools to measure it. So we can't yet assign it, causation in the physical world.
Yeah, so maybe scientists are a little more sort of supernaturally morbidly curious because they are interested in these things that we haven't explained or can't explain.
That's our job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. Third question or third statement. I'm curious what the deadliest toxin in the world would do to the body.
Yeah, so one of my main areas of research is humans' deliberate consumption of plant toxins. We seek out highly toxic plants and consume them on a regular basis. So we all think of tobacco and cigarettes as dangerous. In 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you'll get lung cancer or heart disease. But actually, nicotine is an extraordinarily potent neurotoxin that can kill you in a few minutes. So, and people today even will, and it's actually a really powerful insecticide. So powerful that was banned actually by the EPA in the United States, but still used in other areas of the world. And kind of tragically, folks commit suicide by taking a chug of nicotine. So it's extraordinarily toxic and dangerous. And yet, a billion people are addicted to consuming nicotine every single day. So why are we doing that? And then, we wake up in the morning and have a cup of coffee, but it contains caffeine. That's another plant toxin. We just had Mexican food, chock full of spices, plant toxins that we're deliberately adding to our food. So we humans have this very interesting habit of seeking out really dangerous toxins and consuming them on a daily basis. And the question is, why are we doing that? So if I were to learn about a new super deadly toxin, I would be very interested in finding out more about it. Absolutely.
And you're really checking out on this.
I deny it.
I love spicy food, absolutely. And yeah, it's certainly intrigued by the effects that toxins can have. I mean, the whole original idea of the zombie really came from from toxin consumption. So I think that many biological organisms will hijack other biological organisms by using these compounds, right, that can tap into our nervous systems. And so toxins, I think, are a really intriguing subset of those, and understanding also why do they exist. What is the original reason that evolution, natural selection selected for that in that plant or that animal. I'm intrigued by all of that.
Yeah.
Well, I gotta say, if I was taking this survey by myself and I just heard what is the world's most deadly toxin do, I'd be like, probably makes us dead. And so I wouldn't be that curious.
But it's what does it do to the body? Not does it kill you, but what will it do in your body?
Right, but I'm saying that would have been my first. I was probably ends it, But now that I've heard this, it's got a pretty good marketing agency. So, but I
have to hire you guys.
Yeah, for deadly poisons. So not just for death anymore. Yes, I mean you guys made them sound very interesting. So now I would probably say yes, but I don't know if I would have actually.
So are we spreading morbid curiosity? Are we still
Possibly
infectious?
I think we're increasing curiosity about morbid curiosity.
So,
Yeah. How about our audience? Are you curious about what the deadliest toxin in the world would do to your body? Oh, theoretical. Oh,
not based in harm. Yeah.
Necrotic.
Yeah, I think a lot of this it's not about do you want to see someone in pain, right? It's I'm curious what this does.
Yeah. Do you know what the deadliest?
Botulinum.
Yeah. And what does it do to the body? I have to know.
I should know, and I forget. I was just trying to pull it up.
It's the opposite of what's the one you get from tetanus? Tetanus makes you rigid, and I think botulinum, I forget what pathway it acts on, but it makes you kind of
Yeah, I was trying to remember what pathway, but a lot of these do attack the neuromuscular signaling pathways. Like nicotine attacks the neuromuscular junction. So these organisms are trying to harm animals with nervous systems, and our nervous systems communicate with minute quantities of neurotransmitters, but that then makes us vulnerable to minute quantities of toxins that mimic those neurotransmitters, binding to the same receptors and either activating them or blocking them and preventing critical cellular signaling functions. But the precise pathway of
it might be acetylcholine. I can't remember.
Yeah, that's what nicotine attacks, acetylcholine. I'm not sure about this toxin.
Well, and so if all of these toxins are targeting the functioning of the nervous system, they can make you more rigid or more slack. I mean, is that where some of these ideas about what a zombie is came from?
Zombies are kind of
they have unusual motor
Right.
function.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's
I'll have to
possible.
look into
All right.
that. Last question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last question.
All right. I would be interested in watching a TV show with a serial killer talking about his crimes.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I
Okay, so
don't-
like middle.
Yeah, middle. And I don't know if I have any interesting or unique perspective on that particular.
Have you
topic.
seen any true crime TV shows or anything? Any documentaries?
Probably.
Yeah.
The Jeffrey Dahmer stuff, but
Yeah.
I can tell a story about this. We had the Trailside Killer where I grew up in Marin County, and he was a serial killer going out on the trails out on Mount Tamalpais. I grew up on the slopes of Mount Tamalpais, and was murdering women. And one day, my buddy and I decided to just kind of hike out in the woods. And being the kind of dumb teenagers that we were, we decided, hey, we'll see if we can hike around this lake. And it turned out to be way longer than we thought. And so we basically got stuck overnight. So we were spending the night out in the middle of the woods when the Trailside Killer was
Stalking that area.
stalking that area. And we weren't scared because we knew we were completely in the boonies. But my parents, they were just, it ripped them apart for 24 hours. So we actually saw the search plane looking for us and we waved to it, but
You
they
had
said,
you had a search plane?
yeah, they had a search plane out. And actually the fun thing is many, many years out now, just a few years ago, 20 years later, 30 years later, whatever it's been, I somehow connected with one of the guys that quote unquote rescued us on Facebook. He's like, oh yeah, I remember you guys. So anyway.
So you did get obviously you got rescued because you're here, but did they find you at the plane or what
The
happened?
plane saw us, but they saw us waving, so they said, "Oh, those guys are fine. It must not be them." But we,
for missing people, they look fine. That can't be them.
but we finally made it back out to the road, and right as we made it out to the road, the Rangers kind of drove by in their truck, and we waved them down. And they said, "Have you seen some guys that like this?" I'm like, "We're the guys you're looking for." So, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you are." So they drove us back.
Athena, true crime?
Yeah, I've never watched a true crime show. I've listened to true crime podcasts and liked them more than I kind of expected.
That would
So
count.
yeah. But honestly, like when you read that question, I was like, oh, I don't want that. But then I was like, but I've listened to
I've
true
done it.
crime podcasts, so I guess my behavior is not consistent with my immediate reaction, which is kind of,
But that can be a good thing, right? If this, if some aspects of morbid curiosity are adaptive, it needs to motivate us even when some of the aspects are sort of gross or scary, and it needs to kind of push us to learn about those when it's safe to do so, like a podcast or a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I never watch true crime stuff, and kind of avoid it, I would say.
Yeah.
But I do know I dated someone who grew up being neighbors with Herb Baumeister, who was some serial killer who had bodies hidden in his yard. And she talked about how her sister went and had a sleepover at this guy's house and was kind of like creeped out by the house. And so I've never forgotten that story, but I don't seek these sorts of things out. But once they're in my head, I roll them over again and again.
So kind of like with you and Ed both giving us stories about like this close encounters with serial killers, and Athena and I were oh my god, what?
And I'm like, I don't ever want to even talk about everything, but let me tell you one.
Let me tell you.
So
Up on us sometimes.
I don't know if that's curious or just fascinated or what, but
Let's hear from the audience. Oh,
Too much like the news, yeah.
Mhm.
But so that speaks to that, right? I mean, the news, what is on the news? It's like mostly threatening stories, right? There's not a lot of feel-good stories on the news.
Yeah.
Occasionally they pepper one in to kind of break it up, but it is a lot of like what's bad that's happening around you, because that's important evolutionarily, but also, I mean, even in modern day, that's important to know, like, what are the threats in my environment?
Yeah. Oh, and Liz says, she doesn't want to hear from a serial killer, nor do I want to sympathize with them.
Right. And yeah. And in this case,
Yeah.
it's not about like sympathizing with them necessarily, but it's about trying to learn and identify the behaviors that they have, and like so serial killers, often it's not obvious that they're dangerous, right?
Mhm.
Like you can't just look at someone and go, you're a serial killer. Maybe some people, but for the most part, you can't. And what true crime does in this case is it kind of gives us a peek behind the curtain. Like, how do they think about things? How do they behave when they're by themselves? How do they behave when they're in groups? And it gives us kind of clues to look for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Ona says, you've talked about the research on predator inspection, but how do people engage in horror as a means to understand their shadow side? Oh, wow. We've got a nice broad question here.
That's a great question.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Colton?
So when I talk to horror fans, sometimes I'll do interviews with them and say, what's up with this? Why do you like watching these, right? And what I find is that a lot of horror fans do like watching horror because it helps them work through difficult emotions. And one of the surprising ones is like anxiety. A lot of horror fans, if you survey horror fans for anxiety, whether that's clinically diagnosed or just trait anxiety, what you find is they, on average, score higher than people who are not horror fans of anxiety. They're more likely to be diagnosed with anxiety disorders. They have higher levels of trait anxiety. And I think that goes back to this fact that in anxiety, what it does is it turns up your vigilance towards threats. And that causes you to be interested in things like horror movies. So even if the threat isn't real, it's still sort of emulating a real threat. And so what I found is that people will sometimes watch these kind of movies, like horror movies or scary things, to sort of get out of their rumination cycles. It's like an off-ramp for your rumination. Or people who are sometimes feeling depressed or working through other kinds of difficult emotional states use it as a way to kind of get those feelings out. Because horror is like the only genre that really has it's cornered the market on bad negative feelings. And so it's a kind of a special place to go for some people.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
The way I interpreted that question is, and I think there's pretty strong support for it from evolutionary psychology, is in simplistic terms, we all got our light side, our good side, and our dark and
Like,
evil
what
side.
if we do this? So
and most of us would want to stay on the good side, but we could imagine a situation where things turn dark and we would want to steer clear of that. And so it could be that some of this is not to avoid threats, but to avoid us becoming threats to others. And I was just, for example, I was just watching American Sniper on the plane over here. And these are soldiers in situations where they're under extreme threats.
Yeah.
And then they often engage in war crimes, and you could easily imagine, say, I would never do that. But then you kind of watch them in this scenario and you'd say, could I really resist the impulse to, kill somebody that I think just killed, my buddies?
And these stories are a great way to like work through that.
And prepare yourself so that if you ever were in such a situation, you could recognize the impulse and damp it down. So I did like that question a lot.
Yeah, it's a great question.
Interesting.
Oh, here we go. I played Humans versus Zombies on my campus and can confirm that the constant paranoia of getting tagged by a zombie actually seemed to help with my non-game related anxiety. This is the kind of thing that I hear from horror fans all the time. Like, I think it's difficult to be anxious actively about two things at once. We're not very good at multitasking, and I think that's true for anxiety too. Kind of just fixate on one thing. And when you're feeling anxious, a lot of times you're told to kind of do some meditation or breathing exercises, and that does work for some people. But it's hard to threats really have a premium on our attention. So one way to get rid of a rumination about a threat is to fight fire with fire and bring in a fictional threat, right? Because it's going to tickle all the same parts of your brain that the real threat is.
Yeah.
And if you can fixate on that, which an anxious person probably would, it kind of kicks you out of that rumination cycle a little bit. And then in 90 minutes, the movie's over, your sympathetic nervous system ramps up, you start to relax. So it is kind of a physical relaxation thing that occurs.
Yeah, I think about a lot of, this sort of threat detection as a signal detection problem. Where, you're sort of trying to set a threshold for, is this just noise?
Right.
Or is this really something I need to be worried about?
Right.
And there might be a way in which these scary stories, especially ones that are like really visually engaging or engaging your imagination, help to maybe reset your threshold a little bit so that you're not processing things that are around you that maybe are not really that much of a problem.
Yeah.
It's a problem because you're like, it's not a zombie apocalypse. So, maybe it is okay.
Like my job sucked today, but Michael Myers isn't chasing me with a knife.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. I think that probably happens for some people.
Any final thoughts on how Ed performed on this morbid curiosity test?
I mean, this is the short version, so I can't give you an official diagnosis. I would say you're pretty morbidly curious. You
Okay.
scored higher than probably most people on these.
All right.
And how about Dave?
I think all of us actually.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you were pretty interested, right? It was like once we had the right framework, the right kind of curiosity about it, then it became very interesting. And even things we said we weren't interested in, it was like once someone started telling a story that was relevant to that, we were fixated on it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that sometimes, it's like the car wreck thing. If you don't want to see a car wreck, but if you drive by, you do want to check and just make sure, like, what is this about?
Yeah.
Right? And it's not because you're hoping someone is injured. It's not because, but if someone is injured, like, I want to see, like, what are the consequences? It resets. You're talking about thresholds. It also kind of gives us an idea of what are the consequences of interacting with dangerous situations, right?
Yeah.
What are the consequences of being in a car wreck?
Yeah. To me, one of the things that was really cool about all these questions is that, I mean, most of them related to your research in one way or another.
I studied all of these in some way.
You're like the embodiment of morbid curiosity.
Against my will. But yeah.
You're zombified by your
zombified
morbid
by
curiosity.
curiosity.
It
Yeah.
must be, yeah.
It does kind of zombify you.
Well, do you have any last questions, Dave?
Oh, I have so many, but I think I'm also curious to hear what Baba's got for our.
Yeah, for our wrap up, for the little wrap up of this evening's conversation. Baba, welcome back.
I'm back.
Yeah, Baba's back.
Great,
Back in
great
the house.
conversation. Love it.
Yeah.
So we want to frame this in any special way?
I think this is an audience participation, throwing it in the comment section, and however you want to riff off of what's been going on. So.
How about guilty pleasures in morbid curiosity?
Oh,
All right.
brilliant.
What is the thing you cannot avert your gaze from? And we'll try to work them in if we can get them visible. But the screen's gone out, so
Will they be coming up here for us? We got our comments.
I can take some suggestions from the panel members too.
I'll tell you this poster.
Will
with
they
the-
pop up here?
Hold on.
They will.
Stand by, please.
All right. While we have time,
Oh, just checking.
I was just going to ask pimple popping videos. Are those part of
Oh.
morbid curiosity?
Gross.
It's gotta be a
So
body
gross.
violation one, right?
Yeah.
So gross.
Okay, should we do a panel confession set? What are your morbid
Oh.
curiosity? Pimple
I
popping.
think I
and
just
gaze,
started, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Oh, my morbid curiosities. I mean, I think it is that, like, I'm really intrigued by true crime, even though I'm also disgusted by it. I'm
Alright.
intrigued. Yeah.
Toxins.
Toxins.
Yeah.
Okay. Colton?
I'm kind of across the board. It's what I do, right? I'm
Yeah.
curious about all of it. But
You don't have a favorite?
I don't have a I don't think I have a favorite. I found myself watching Dahmer as soon as it came out. Like, it's just, there's something about it that's intriguing, like learning about people who are.
I like
So outside of
manifestos
what
as
I've-
well,
yeah.
like Ted Kaczynski's manifesto and
Yeah.
things like that.
Because it
Like,
gives you
those are-
insight
yeah.
into their
So,
mind, right?
yeah.
Has nothing to do with
Wow.
necessarily their
It's just
victims. It's like
fascinating,
their
yeah.
minds. Yeah.
So-
I've been actually going through the manifesto of the Brooklyn mass shooter.
Wow.
It's really disturbing to just read this guy preparing to kill all these people.
I mean, that's exactly what this dimension.
And he's drawing on our research to justify his
Oh,
crimes.
No.
Yes. So
Oh.
it's really disturbing.
That's really terrifying.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay, and I'm going to put it out there to anybody watching on the stream. If you have a morbid curiosity confession you want to make and you pop it up in the comments, it might work its way into the wrap. Okay, let's rock it out. This is the grand finale. Yeah, my freestyles are scorching. I confess my curiosities are morbid. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to rip it up. I agree that serial killers really suck. They are not good as a human option. So if you give them a true crime show, don't watch them. Don't give them all your attention and the narrative after they've done a whole bunch of people burying. Yes, indeed. Don't give them respect. But when you pass car accidents, do you turn your neck? I do. That confession is true. Like, oh my God, that is so gruesome. I just split a word up, eating poop. That's what Diana said. Do you watch that too? Oh wait, I got it. I think she's trying to chant about a concept called a fecal transplant. Maybe the bacteria gets changed out. Sometimes I find the curiosity strange now. Yeah, Coltan cannot stop watching Dahmer, and the lowbrow version is Dr. Pimple Popper. Can't you even see? Yeah, he's rinsing out his soul, reading up on Dave Kaczynski. Yeah, indeed, thinking the Unabomber's righteous. Dave, is that the reason that you look like him? Check it, yo. I'm gonna have to get you. I'll get the anesthetics on the stretcher. Watch people right now. Like I can't look away during this beautiful head transplant. Yes, indeed. Oh, I'm in the flow. I would watch it as long as it was consensual. Yo, it's my rap and flow. I am not very interested in the supernatural. Oh, except your grandma's ghost. That's probably real. I understand the way that these people feel. Yes, indeed. Check it out. I'm straight rocking. I am also morbidly curious of toxins, like reading on the back of a bottle. Like, oh my God, so many chemicals. I do not want to go in that direction, but they're going in my body. Sometimes you need chemicals in your body to rock a party. Yeah, that's how it goes. Yo, I rock words. Liz, I guess your first dates are awkward. I don't know why. Maybe you all ingest toxins, or did you mean you like it when it's awkward and you watch them? I see, yes, indeed. Just watching, looking from outside, saying this first date is awesome. Yeah. Hopefully it's not my fault. We could look up close and look at these eyeballs. Eyeballs, yes, a little bit of red veins in them. I like the pain in the system because I'm morbidly curious. I'm really serious when I go into a dermatologist and say, is this mole serious? That's a morbid question, isn't it? I don't want to know. I just want to live life nicely, yo, and have a good time with it all open-ended. But I like how science can closely attend it. Check it out. This is all serious. But wait a second, Ed, you sounded intellectually curious, not morbidly curious. You were trying to lean in. You just were really keen to study all of them. Like, what's the phenomenon? It relates to my research. So don't put morbidly curious on your t-shirts. No, because I see a little objectivity. That's not the same as being grossed out and living free and thinking about all the ways that we doubt as we freak out, feel anxieties and haunted houses. That's how we go with that research into how we humans are some morbid creatures. Can't you even see? This is a test. Every one of us wants to look at death and try to reflect on ourselves in that situation, because that is the journey we'll be taking. Maybe in a way like self-immolation. Thank you for that suggestion, Diana. That's greatness. As long as it's in the way of a good cause. Maybe all the gasoline could drip drop and burn ourselves down just to sacrifice. I would watch that if I was bored on Friday night. If it was on Netflix. This is how a human brain gets tested. Woo! Excellent suggestions. I think that's probably like a good one to close
Absolutely,
on, right?
Baba.
Yeah,
that
not
was
much
amazing.
chit-chatting.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here with us.
I will-
Yeah.
I will be back, and
All
thanks,
right,
thanks so
yeah.
much for having me and for the inspiration.
Yeah.
Ed Colton, thank you.
Ed and Colton, thank you so much for being with us tonight as well. It's been a real pleasure to talk to you both.
Yeah, it is.
Pleasure to be here.
Yes, absolutely. So tomorrow we have some exciting events. So tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., we have another episode of Undead Live, where we will be hearing from Jessica Phillips Silver and Dante Pope about Go-Go, the indigenous music of Washington, D.C. And we will be actually doing some interactive entrainment activities. They're going to be joining us remotely, but they're going to entrain us anyway, even though they're not here in person with us.
Well, that
so
sounds really fun.
yeah, so that'll be really exciting. So I'm really looking forward to that and all of the other programs that we have. We have a full schedule tomorrow. I'm running up until our afternoon here.
Excellent. So yeah, everyone should join in. And so
Absolutely. So thank you to all of you, and thank you to our studio audience, and to all of you who are joining us safely from your bunks, homes, your bunkers, your satellite connected Go vehicles, or wherever you may be.
yeah, and go rest your late night brains, because we'll see you tomorrow, one way or another.
Yes, one way or another. We'll see you in the morning.
All right.
And if the whole world says that we're crazy.